So stretching is affecting the plasticity, the permanent change length of the muscle. The more we stretch it, the more length we have, the more range of motion we have access to. And yeah, you know what? Maybe it's not just your quads that are tight or your hamstrings that are tight and your squats restricted because of that. Maybe it's actually a combination of things. Maybe your calves are tight, your hamstrings are shot, and your lower back is tight. Like all these different components. So if we can influence the length of all those tissues and give you more access to your range of motion so that you get to the bottom of your squat, but guess what? You still got 10% more. You could still go lower, baby. That's a great thing. Because then you're not stressing your end range of motion where, by the way, if you're fatigued, it could lead to injury. We don't want that to happen. Mm-hmm. We want you to have more than enough access to your range of motion so that when you need it, if you need it, you have it there. But while you're training, maybe you don't use it all. That's okay. You'll feel way less pain. I bet that neck, right? All those things with rotating and all that shoulder pain that you got, that neck pain that you got, folks, give yourself more range of motion. Do those same movements and see how you feel a month later, 2 months later.
Hey, welcome back to the BentOnBetter podcast. You're joined by Nick and Matt April. We're here. Nick, how was your weekend?
It's fantastic, man. It's always fantastic.
Good answer.
You know that. Dude, I watched Bohemian Rhapsody this weekend for the first time ever.
And?
It was awesome.
Right?
It's amazing.
Right?
Yeah, I can't believe I let it go this long.
I loved it. I saw it in theaters.
Yeah.
And I cried in theaters.
I cried at the ending.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God, choked up. And like you already kind of know that if you know Queen, if you know Freddie Mercury,
dramatic irony
you know the ending, but like still having seen the story, having gone through it all, I'm a big Queen fan.
Yeah.
Like to the point where like I've thought about going to see them when they've like been on tour recently, but like it's not the same. It's not Freddie Mercury. It's not Queen.
Yeah.
Even though who was it? Adam Lambert who was like a fill-in, I think for a little while.
The most recent. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, and like he's crazy, amazingly talented. But yeah, I love the movie.
Yeah.
Loved the movie.
It was great.
And I think that the story and the actor and everything was so good.
Yeah.
Like everything was really well put together for that movie.
Yeah.
If you're watching on YouTube, give us a comment below. Tell us if you saw Bohemian Rhapsody, what your thoughts are, because I really would like to know what our audience, you, were actually thinking about the movie. If you saw it, if you didn't see it, go watch it and then come back to the video and leave us a comment in the comment section below. And if you're listening to them on the podcast, go over to YouTube and leave us a comment there and let us know.
No, I mean people are going to pause this and go listen to
I hope
some
so.
Queen songs.
I hope so. Unless you're driving, don't do that. But yeah, definitely go listen to some Queen. Maybe don't pause us. Maybe go through the whole episode first and then go listen to Queen after while you're thinking about what we talked about today. But we have a really cool topic coming up today. We're going to prioritize it around recovery.
Yeah.
Right? Because right now, you know, the time of the year right now we're recording this is a time where people are more stressed than normal. They're working out more than usual, or maybe less than usual, you know, depending on what kind of lifestyle you live, and prioritizing goals that are important but require the proper alignment with these priorities. So what we're going to talk about today is recovery. We're going to talk about it in a lot of different forms. We're going to be talking about our top recommendations for how to recover. If you're someone who is training frequently, who's sore, if you're tired, if you're tight, if you've had some chronic pains and some chronic injuries that you've been dealing with for a while, we're going to talk about those things that we here at BentOnBetter help prioritize for ourselves. We're going to be teaching you guys, everyone, like what we actually live through and what we do, but also talk about it in a way that you can benefit from it too. You being everyone who's, you know, if you're listening to us or if you're watching us on YouTube, we're going to give you some really great takeaways. And this one, we're jam-packed. We're jam-packed full of goodness here. So stay tuned here. So, but let's real quick, why do we want to talk about priorities? Why do we want to talk about prioritizing recovery?
Yeah, well, I think it's important to have some kind of alignment with these concepts, because otherwise, you know, if you're walking to strength training or any type of fitness routine for the first time, or maybe you've been doing it for a year or two, and you're wondering, how can I keep this going for, you know, 5, 10, 20, 50, whatever more years? It's important to know some of the things that you should be doing outside of the gym, and things that will help promote longevity. So, you know, while there are a lot of different components, there are a lot of different aspects we could probably consider that contribute to recovery.
Yeah.
We've kind of come up with 5 that we feel, between the two of us, that we feel are really, that should really stand out, that we prioritize.
Yeah. And I think it's important for us to also mention that there are a lot of places like in the fitness industry. So a lot of gyms, there are a lot of training facilities, there are a lot of supplement companies, there are a lot of companies out there in general who their main, keep in mind, as a business, your main goal in starting a business is to make money. Like, you're probably out there, unless you're starting a nonprofit, right? Maybe your goal isn't to make money. You're motivated by other factors that are a little more morally aligned or something along those lines. But in a general sense, if you're starting a business, like, your purpose of starting a business is to create jobs for people and to make money. So people can make money, so you can make money. And the fitness industry is no different. And unfortunately, we're in the industry that I think it's important here to debunk some of these things for people before we get into our top 5 recommendations. And it kind of is a good little segue, and you'll see what I'm talking about. But a lot of places right now, Lynn and I were talking about this morning. Like, literally this morning, we were out. We decided to go out for breakfast as a date. We usually do, like, once a month, we go out for, like, a date. And we'll do a date breakfast. And we went out, we were talking about it. And, like, on the menu, there were these top 3 items in, like, a separate menu. It was, like, the main menu and then a separate menu that came in with, like, the top 3 morning boost healthy options. And they're all 3, there were juices. All 3 of them were juices. One was a kale tonic. The other one was, like, a morning meditation. And the other one was, like, some sort of, like, cleansing juice. And I looked at Lynn, I'm like, this is so frustrating, sad, annoying, whatever, all the different things I felt in that moment, because we've gotten to this point where the fitness industry has, like, led the way with this. And it happens to be that, like, culture and social media, all the different places have put a huge, like, spin on how healthy it is to drink these detox juices, like do the turmeric and lemongrass and kale and lemon juice, and that's 2 lemons, and cayenne pepper juices that you buy this bottle of a $5 juice and you drink it, and it's supposed to be this detoxing elixir. But, like, let's just be real. Water can do the same thing than that as a juice can. And, like, you can get all those vitamins and minerals that you would get from that juice and just eating the foods themselves, and get more benefits from it anyway, because you're actually eating the fruits and the vegetables and things. Like, you could just chomp on some lemongrass if you really wanted to have lemongrass instead of having it in a juice. Like, why juice it? You're going to get more fiber from eating the grass than you would by drinking the juice. But I think it's just for us, especially for our members. Like, I prioritize this overall for our members. You know this, because we don't want people to spending money. Like, don't waste your money on things like that. And if you're going to spend your money and you want to have that, just give me your money, and I'll give you all the reasons for why you shouldn't drink that, and let you drink the water here from our clean, clear water filter, beautiful water fountains out there.
There is a lot of flashiness around these ideas, and I get it. It is to draw in the crowd. Certainly, you're right. Like, there's got to be motivation to keep your business afloat when you're in these type of, and so you find these different keywords and phrases that kind of stick out to people. But at the end of the day, it gets a little hard to navigate, right? Mm-hmm. Because you've got all these flashing lights of try this is the next thing, this is the silver bullet, when in reality there really is no one silver bullet. It's kind of the combination of what works best for you. Like, it's building your philosophy, and finding what works best for you.
So what would you say? So in our top 5, what is we're going to start let's start at the bottom of the list.
Yeah. So we'll start from number 5.
Let's start number 5. So what's number 5 in terms of recovery and prioritizing recovery? What's number 5 on our list for what we recommend?
Number 5, we're going to go ahead and say number 5 is supplementation. Mm-hmm. And the reason for it's important to not just think that, okay, so supplementation, go, run. No, continue to listen, please.
Yeah, wait.
There's a reason for that. And it kind of is not too far off from what we were just talking about, in that in this industry, and when we're talking about industry, we're saying health and wellness. We're talking about, like, you, the person who's listening to this, your health, your wellness, your fitness. It's hard not to get bombarded with this supplement, that supplement, and this other thing that's going to help give you the edge, or help you feel better, or recover faster, or do this better than you ever could have dreamed. When in reality, these things, supplements, I think we talked about this before too, ironically. Supplements are there to fill in the gaps. Potentially. if there are gaps that exist. And so for a lot of folks who are getting into a new fitness routine, one of the biggest gaps that tends to exist, other than water, right? And you had already kind of mentioned that, is protein, protein intake. Not to say that we need to be loading our bodies full of, thousands of grams of protein a day. In fact, I would not recommend that at all. But understanding that, yes, in your regular routine, without having fitness routine built in, you need to consume adequate amounts of protein. But when you introduce exercise, something that is literally taxing the proteins, quote unquote. If you can't see me, if you're listening to this podcast, I'm doing finger quotes, the proteins of your body, AKA your muscles, then yeah, we're going to need to have something that we can have on reserve to rebuild those muscles as we're continuing these routines. So protein supplementation is very important. If you're not already getting enough in your diet, you can consume adequate amounts of protein without needing the supplement. And this is kind of why we were discussing beforehand, like why, this is not one of the most important things in terms of recovery, right? But it is necessary. We do need to talk about it, right?
Right. And it's also important to add in there. So supplements, in terms of recovery, there are a lot of them. So we got the juices that we just discussed previously. So there are a lot of options out there that do have health benefits, right? The juices do have like lots of micronutrients. Some of them may have macros in them, but mainly, they do have macros, right? There's carbs, lots of carbs.
Juices don't tend to have a whole lot of fats, unless it depends on what's in it.
Maybe there's like some coconut oil in there or something like that.
We might be talking more about a smoothie
MCT
at that
oil.
point, though.
Yeah. But in terms of like the supplement options there, like, yes, there are some health benefits there. And so we're not going to write them off. We're going to have it on the lower end of the list. But in terms of prioritizing, like that's the lowest priority because you can get all these things. It is a supplement to your diet. But not everyone's doing it, right? So some people don't get enough greens in their diet. So I would recommend like going with like a greens powder and like adding that into your protein supplement. So you're like kind of masking it because most greens powders aren't like the best tasting. Some of them are actually pretty good because they have like some apple and some like other fruits in there that kind of bring up the sweetness and like bring out the other flavors and stuff. And but overall, like, having a supplement there is to add to your currently existing diet. So if you're someone who's not getting enough greens, I would recommend like going with a green supplement. If you're someone who's not getting enough protein, which is the most cases for a lot of people, get with a protein supplement. And there are vegan options. There are plant-based, and then there are also people who don't have to be plant-based, but who don't want to have whey. So I use collagen as like a main supplement for me, as a protein supplement. So there's collagen, there's whey as like the main top line ones. There's pea protein. You can do brown rice. You can do.
So I do a mixture, to be clear. So
yeah.
I consume a vegan protein or a plant-based protein. And the supplementation there is brown rice and pea protein.
Yes.
Which, if you had listened to some of our earlier podcasts too, I mentioned this idea of combining
grains
and legumes.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
So you form this wonderfully balanced amino acid profile, and so that supplementation for me, like, that works.
It's so perfect. And then in terms of the other supplements that people think are priorities for recovery, there are a lot of ones out there for like pre-workouts, intro workouts, and post-workout supplements. Yeah. And a lot of those are basically just like either caffeinated options with amino acid profiles or carbohydrates built into those as well. Usually the pre-workout side of things. Mm-hmm. But then it's funny because we know pre-workouts, like in terms of like what we've talked about in the past, but you need to have carbohydrates to fuel that exercise program or that workout. So like people who are like all these supplement companies that exist, so many of them are touting this like zero carb pre-workout. Like all you're doing is blasting your body with caffeine, artificial sweeteners, maybe not artificial, but maybe like stevia, which is fine. But like some sort of sweetener, and then like an amino acid like level, which is great. And like usually only like two of the main like 9 that are in there, or maybe 3, but you're getting some. But again, the better option is just like have like 4 ounces of coffee and throw in some collagen peptides in there and like a teaspoon of sugar, and like boom, there's your pre-workout that you don't need to like be adding all the extra ingredients and chemicals and sweeteners and colors and all that stuff, all that extra stuff, Yeah. So and then like, same on the post-workout side, like you don't need to have a post-workout supplement unless it's a protein shake because you're in a pinch and on the go. Go home and make yourself a breakfast. But if that's not the case, then supplement that option. There's that post-workout. But the other ones that I think just need to like skimming here are like like the midday pick me up, like workout, not workout, like caffeine pills and like supplement packs that you can get, like vitamin packs and stuff like that, and the IVs that are out there. Oh my gosh, so much stuff that is out there now, and whew, man, this could be a whole other topic.
I know.
But
as you're digging deeper in, I'm like,
yeah,
ooh,
but
man.
for the sake of not going down this rabbit hole, I think it's important just to talk about, like just to round off this talk about supplements, as there is a time and place for prioritizing these things, but in terms of recovery and in terms of like if you really truly need to allocate resources in time to research it, resources in terms of money, or resources in terms of your health, like actually having it as part of your routine, you don't need them, those things. The only things that I ever recommend to anyone: protein supplement in some sort of form that we've talked about, a multivitamin, maybe if you're someone who who tells me like they don't eat fruits and vegetables for whatever reason. I'm trying, like, I'll be all right, try a really good clean supplement of like a vitamin, maybe a vitamin D supplement, maybe. I usually don't even recommend that. Maybe a fish oil, again, to go with that like vitamin D supplement. Again, don't always recommend that. But then the one that I have in the past for some people is creatine, and going on the like lower level of the dosage just for the sake of producing more energy, for the sake of like helping to stimulate more growth, more energy to promote better growth. And there's only been a handful of people who have told me that they're not so tied into seeing their weight change as much as they want to see their composition change. And that's it. So like, just so I'm transparent, like that's what I recommended. Yeah. But for supplements, like that's about it.
Yeah.
That's about it. Like if, again, clean it up, protein is like the best and only one you should consider.
I like that. Let's send all of our listeners home with a take home point here.
Yeah.
Number 5 on our list. So we're going in order from, we'll say least important, although still important, least important to most important. So number 5 here is supplementation. And we are using protein as our number 1 thing you should be supplementing.
And shameless plug. If you're someone who's looking for a protein supplement and you're a member who's listening to this at any time of the year, you can most likely buy your protein supplement from us, because we get it wholesale from the companies that you buy it from anyway. And instead of buying it from Amazon or buying it from GNC or any other place out there and letting them take your money, support a small business. Come and buy it from us. And if you don't want to buy the ones that we have on stock, that's fine. Let me know. I can send you an Amazon link to the ones that we think is the best options on Amazon. And then you can support us from that way, because Amazon works with that as well as a...
Yeah. So if you're going to buy it from Amazon and you're like, these April guys, I'm just going to order from Amazon, at least take our link from us.
Take
My
our
goodness.
links from us, right?
Like, we just gave you the credit to order the...
Help some brothers out.
Help the brothers.
Sheesh. What's number 4?
All right. So number 4, again, in terms of things that we recommend for our recovery, number 4, we were talking about rest, but calling this, instead of just saying rest in general, let's say rest from workout.
Okay.
And so lumped into this idea, we're going to talk about taking your body through movement, and particularly through very low intensity but kind of steady state movements. So we'll just give that a term. We'll call that low intensity steady state movement,
also known as L.I.S.S.
L.I.S.S. Like listen up. L.I.S.S.
L.I.S.S. L.I.S.S.
L.I.S.S.
Low intensity steady state.
So this is important, because when you're...
Wait, let's give an example. Give a couple examples of like what is L.I.S.S.
Okay, so we've got
what's the best one?
Multiple avenues. Walking. That's my favorite. Yeah. Walking is my favorite.
Number 1.
Guess what? You've got to walk anyway, right?
Yeah.
Where you're going. So walking is really easy. It's very accessible. Of course, if walking is not in the books, or walking is something that maybe you have less accessibility to, depending on location, whatever physicality.
What is steady state though?
Steady state, we're talking about not having a whole lot of changes going on during this movement or during this exercise.
What would you compare it to? Like, what's the opposite of L.I.S.S.?
So we'll say, like, we could say interval running.
Or like HIIT.
A little bit more of a specific example, but
so
yeah.
The opposite of L.I.S.S. is HIIT, high intensity interval training.
Yeah.
So, or anything high intensity. Or intervals, or both.
Right. And we can talk about why steady state is a good option for this part of your recovery. I think we'll address that a little bit later. But it is important. We are making a distinction there. Steady state versus like changing it up, having these intervals or having higher intensity exercises. So again, running, or throwing weights around, whatever. Doing something that involves any form of weight, honestly, for the most part, is not exactly what we're going for, but we can talk about that too later, about involving lower intensity weight or lower intensity resistance bands. But also taking rest from workout. So taking rest from your regular training routine. If, let's say, you're constantly doing strength training in exercises that are anywhere from 3 to 10 repetitions, and you're pushing a weight that feels like, let's say on a scale of intensity, it feels like a medium challenge to you. It's hard to move, but still very accomplishable. That's not what we're talking about here. That is your strength training regimen. Here we're talking about taking a break from that, maybe putting the weights down and doing some of those movements body weight, or maybe not even doing them at all, but again, walking or swimming or using an elliptical or even using a
bike.
Or a bike.
Or a bike. Like all the people who love their Pelotons.
I know.
This is a great opportunity for you to switch the mindset from I need to work out. Right? We talked about this in a previous episode.
Yeah.
But switching the mindset from I need to work out to I need to recover, and using and prioritizing things like Pelotons or the rowers that you have, or like the treadmills at home that are becoming coat racks. You can utilize these pieces of equipment at home in a really great way to make you justify that payment that you did supporting those companies or wherever you bought it from. So you don't feel as guilty, but then also knowing that you're prioritizing your recovery by using them in a steady state manner. So going at a steady state means like staying consistent with the pace or staying consistent with the intensity that you're using, which should be a very, very, very low intensity option, like walking, incline walking. Some people might be a very light jog or very light ride on a bike or very light row, but something consistently for at least 15 minutes. At least 15 minutes, aiming to get 15 to 30 minutes in would be like my recommendation for how much time you should be spending on it.
I would even use some kind of a guide here. Like, for instance, when you feel your body starting to warm up, let's say you wear layers when you're training.
I do.
Okay, good.
I do.
Wear layers when you're training, or wear layers when you're doing these type of things, the low intensity, steady state stuff. Wear layers, and the second you feel like you have to take that layer off, right there is a pretty good intensity marker, right? So wherever you're at. Now, unless that happened in 30 seconds, maybe I'd say, okay, that's maybe high. That's a little higher intensity than we want. But you should start to feel right around that 15 mark. You should feel like you've definitely gotten warmed up at that point. Maybe even have a little bit of a sweat going. Leave the stuff on.
Yeah.
Let your body stay warm. Let all of that blood continue to circulate. Because that's great. We don't want people to just take their sweatshirt off the second they get hot and uncomfortable. That's actually not a bad thing to happen here. What we're really trying to accomplish in this step of our recovery is promoting good blood flow, promoting good fluid flow. So I know everybody's usually familiar with arteries and veins when we're talking about the movement of blood through the body. Not maybe as many people understand lymph and how lymph flows through our body. People usually understand the term lymph node because you hear about swollen lymph nodes when you get sick or when you have, when you're fighting off some kind of infection. Your lymph nodes are just these little points in your lymph drainage system that collect a lot of lymph. They filter a lot of the lymph. And this fluid, again, this isn't blood we're talking about. This is all the extra stuff. Let's just kind of say they're kind of like the nutrients and garbage collectors at the same time. So they're going to filter out a lot of stuff, including bacteria, other things that happen upon our bloodstreams. And it's the duty of the lymph system to eventually get that that fluid back into the bloodstream when it has been filtered and kind of processed a little bit more. So unfortunately, our lymph system doesn't have a heart. It doesn't have something that pushes the fluid through the system. It relies more on movement, so the movement of joints. And you've got lymph all throughout your body, just like you have arteries and veins all throughout your body. So by moving, and especially moving steady state, where all of your joints are moving, and this is why we also recommend walking and biking, because they tend to be multi-joint movements. You're helping that lymph recirculate through your body because guess what? That workout you did 2 days ago, you're sore in your quads, you're sore in your glutes because that's your immune response. That's your body literally taking out the damage, all the tissue that you just caused these little micro damages to. And that feeling you have is your immune response. We'll call those the toxins. I hate to just give it like one, but we'll call those the toxins. And that's why they have that kind of effect on your body. So the sooner you get that stuff pumping and pushed through your body, the sooner you're going to start to feel better. And guess what? When you feel better, you want to move again sooner, right? So it's like this wonderful, you kill two birds with one stone kind of deal here. You're getting moving, but you're also getting yourself ready and prepared for your next training session.
That's so good.
Yeah.
That was so good. I don't even have anything to add. Let's go to number 3. What is number 3 on that list?
Yeah. So number 3, we're going to start to talk more about, similarly along the same lines of blood flow. We're going to talk about foam rolling, and we're going to talk about any form of soft tissue, let's say passive or maybe instrument assisted soft tissue movement.
Like using a foam roller, using a tennis ball, a cross ball.
Right. So
percussive therapy.
Percussive
units,
therapy.
yeah.
Yeah. So these little gun therapy devices that you guys, we can name drop here, but there are so many on the market now. Everybody's kind of got their own thing. Percussive therapies, if you're unfamiliar with this, it looks like a little, what do you call those things? Like a drill with a little ball attached to the end of it. And you just kind of glide it over large muscle groups or different areas of your body.
A couple options out there that are like the main leaders in the industry, but the ones that we like the most are like our Theragun or Hyper Ice. Those are some those are like the leaders, right?
Yeah.
Those are like the leading.
Yeah.
The ones that kind of brought it into the industry and really started to help take off.
I think they get the most credit as being kind of like the pioneers in the industry. So again, this whole concept is called percussive therapy. And we own a Theragun here at the gym that we will also frequently recommend some of our members use.
Yeah.
And again, the idea there is that it's not supposed to be a silver bullet. It's meant to be an aid in your recovery. All these things are not, no one of them is going to be a silver bullet. But the idea with this stage in our recovery.
Well, actually, number 1 is pretty close to it.
I was going to say, we're
the number
about
1
as close as we
recommendation
can get
is about
there,
the number 1,
we'll get
like
to
the
that,
best
though.
one.
Not to tease you guys, but
yeah, we are teasing.
we've got to keep you listening somehow, right?
You listening?
So.
You watching? Actually, if you're watching right now and if you're watching on YouTube, leave a comment in the comment section below of what kind of supplements do you use currently, or what kind of supplements have you used in the past, and also talk to us about like what you do for your time off. Like, do you use a bike? Do you use a rower? Do you go for walks? Do you have an animal that you take for a walk? You take your dogs on walks regularly. Do you walk your cat? Do you have a ferret? Let us know. I want to know if you have a ferret. Do you take your ferret for a walk, or you just let your ferret roam out in the yard and just
What's a ferret sound
call
like?
back in? Ferret?
Yeah, what does it sound like?
Right? Isn't that like a ferret? Yeah. That's what it is, right?
We should, maybe Jaquan can make some magic happen in this video and actually like impose the sounds of a ferret, like in place of us talking.
Yeah.
Make us sound like ferrets.
We'll see if this actually works. Maybe if he actually wants to do it. I'm going to move my lips like I'm doing it. Did it work? I don't know. Maybe I just look really goofy on camera. Anyway,
There's
back
a moment
to
of
it.
silence there of our lips.
Yeah. yeah.
So we were talking about foam rolling, and we were talking about passive or instrument assisted soft tissue movement or mobilization, which this concept's not, like a lot of our members are familiar with this idea of foam rolling. We don't always call it instrument assisted soft tissue mobilization, but that's essentially what it is, because you're using an instrument like a foam roller or a lacrosse ball to mobilize the tissue. There are a few goals with that. So the first, and honestly most important in my mind, is blood flow, because across the research that is out there, that exists in the literature on foam rolling specifically, or honestly other forms of soft tissue movement, it's tough to say any one particular thing that it's actually accomplishing that is not to be confused with like what people theorize. So what I'm trying to get at is there's also been this idea that foam rolling is somehow breaking up some of the tissue in your body and actually literally moving it, mobilizing it away from, let's say, scar tissue or other things. Again, I'm not maybe let's say recently in the past few years, maybe there's been some better literature out there that actually shows the effects of this and that it actually is completely moving it off of some of the scar tissue. But what we use it for is blood flow improvement, desensitization of nerves. And I know that's a mouthful, but essentially what it's doing is helping dull the response of some of your, let's say, sensitive nerves, the ones that are more sensitive to pain or more sensitive to touch. You're not numbing the spot when you foam roll over it, but you're helping that spot when you're pushing that foam roller over that tissue. You have these nerve endings called mechanoreceptors that pick up on the sensations. And so if you can kind of teach them that it's okay to experience that shearing tension or compression, and then you show it that it's okay when you remove that compression, that it can still exist and not be in pain, then maybe during your training session, you'll have access to more motion under greater loads without as much pain.
Yeah.
And so those are kind of the two big reasons we use it. It helps downregulate, in some ways, some of your nervous system. some people would also argue it does the opposite. It actually upregulates. It helps. It kind of perks you up, right? When you use the Theragun, it kind of perks you up.
It does. Yeah.
It excites you. And so it kind of works in two ways. So if you're using it for the purposes of recovery, whether it's maybe at home, before a training session or after a training session, you can accomplish all these things. Blood flow is the most important, as I already mentioned. The desensitization of the nerves will help you access greater ranges of motion, yes, because you're now going to experience less discomfort in those movements. And yeah, maybe we are able to kind of break up some of that tissue. I hate to say the term break up because it makes it sound like we're actually splitting muscle. Right. We're not doing that, but you do have a layer in your body called a soft tissue called fascia. And it kind of connects everything. It's like this wonderful, beautiful spider web that goes throughout your entire body. It surrounds all the muscles, it surrounds all your organs, and that fascia can get sticky sometimes. And this is where foam rolling kind of got its biggest hype, was in its effect to try and break up that fascia to allow you to move more freely. Because although I'm rolling my quad, it's maybe not that I'm changing the length of my quad, but I'm changing the influence of the fascia on my quad when I'm rolling that spot.
That's big. I think it's important to mention here that like we utilize foam rolling and percussive therapy, all these different manipulation tools that we discussed. We use these in terms of what you're just discussing, right? It's to help to move the fascia, so it gives us better blood flow, so it gives us better range of motion, all the different things that we just highlighted so well. But I think it's important for us to prioritize, tell people that foam rolling at home is going to help get ready for what we recommend for number 2 as a best form of recovery. So foam rolling in itself is number 3 because of number 2 being so important and what will actually change on a cellular level. So foam rolling won't make those changes on the cellular level that we want to have happen.
Yeah.
Right.
Maybe we're not.
And what I really want to emphasize here is when people, especially our members, I want to hopefully prioritize more people to get in here earlier and use the foam roller for a long period of time, but also realize that coming in and rolling and then standing still before a training session is kind of counterproductive, because you're rolling. You should be rolling all the way through until you start moving. Foam rolling and then stopping movement and then starting movement is not going to help as much as just rolling the whole way through. So whenever members specifically come in, they'll use a foam roller for a minute or two on one or two areas that they always go do. It's the backs of your legs or your butt cheeks. That's all I ever see people rolling. But it's guys, you could also be rolling your upper back, your mid back. You could be doing your quads. You should be doing your calves. You should be doing your thighs, all of your thighs, your forearms, your chest. There are so many areas that you can always hit. And even if you only have 5 minutes, you can prioritize those major areas, your upper back, your mid back, your butt cheeks, your hamstrings, your quads, and your calves. And then go for forearms, go for your biceps, go for triceps, go for chest, go for shoulders, go for lats. All those other places depending on, and what we do, I love what we do here is that we prioritize the areas of where you should be foam rolling when you come in.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, not a lot of people look at that as a priority. They look at it as a recommendation. It is a recommendation, but it's also a priority recommendation. It's it's at the top of the list. Yeah.
And it says foam roll these areas. So what Matt's referring to there is in our programs that we project every single day that we're here training, the top of that training is a list of foam rolling
and
we're
hitting
areas. All the major, what we call agonists, all the main muscles that we're hitting in that day for training.
And to round off the foam rolling topic before we move into number 2, which is even better, foam rolling after you train, so after you've been mobilized. Foam rolling before is great for all the reasons you just said. Play it back if you don't hear those again. Play it back from the next explanation. But foam rolling, even during training, is great because it promotes all the things that you said. Foam rolling after is it's like closing the barn door after the cows out.
I love that analogy. Yeah.
You can close. You could do it. Yeah. But they're already out.
It's not going to hurt you. It's just not really going to help you.
It's not going to help.
Yeah.
So what you should be doing is after a training session, after it, the number 2 recommendation. Can I say this one?
Go ahead. So we're starting number 2 on our list.
Number 2 on the list of 5. Second to number 1 is number 2 is stretching.
Ooh,
stretching. It's so beautiful. And I was saying to you earlier how I did not prioritize. I usually prioritize my stretching every day. Every day I will spend an episode of Friends stretching. And that's like an equivalent to be like 25 minutes roughly. So I will spend about 25 minutes stretching per day, usually in the evenings as I round off my days. Come away for me to like bring down my breathing, calm myself down, helps me to make sure that I feel really great before I go to bed, so that my muscles can recover. And that's just when I prioritize my stretching, is when it works into my day. But it has also reduced the amount of pain I have in my neck, because when I get really worked up and really stressed out, I tend to switch my breathing from how I normally breathe with my belly to breathing with my chest. And I find like I wake up in the mornings like this, like shrugged. I'm like, oh gosh, okay, shrug it down. But I did my stretching, my thread the needle stretches for my T-spine, for my upper back, mid back. That usually brings on headaches when I'm really stressed. But I haven't had headaches in months because I've prioritized my stretching. And I do it as a form of recovery regularly. And I do it in a preemptive approach to getting rid of the pains that I knew had happened before. And when they start to come on, because like I said, the past few days with the holiday and stuff, I just didn't prioritize it. I was just like drained. I was stressed. I was just like, okay,
You're human.
Whatever. I'm not gonna do it tonight. And like 4 days of not stretching, the 5th day, oh, you better believe I stretched morning and nighttime. I did, and I feel so much better.
You touched on a few different things. So when we say stretching, we're not just talking about, keeping your legs straight, touching down, reaching for your toes, and just trying to hold that, right? We're not just talking about that, right?
You're talking about, I think about one person specifically in our lives who did that.
Well, yeah, but no. I mean, this is to clarify. So when we say stretching, we're talking about like not just static stretching, but also dynamic stretching. So you mentioned thread the needle, which is not generally something that you're just going to hold. Now you can.
I usually do too.
You do static holds for that?
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Great. But you can also do dynamic. So meaning you can reach to your end point and then maybe come out of that stretch or that position for a moment and regather and then do it again. So repetitions of that. Great. So we're talking about motion still, but stretching also. So static stretching. It's kind of lumped all into one category here. And I also love that you were talking about your breathing, which is critical. I mean, for anybody, we teach proper breathing and breathing mechanics while we're here at BentOnBetter. But we're talking about when we're actually performing these motions, like reconnecting with your breath. So let's say we're in a position or a posture that we're holding for 45 seconds or 60 seconds, right? Which is typically the typical static stretch time. That's what we usually recommend. You're connecting with your breath, maybe not at first, maybe it's a bit of a struggle, maybe it's a little resistant, right? And if you're listening to this, you're like, oh man, I know when I try to stretch my hamstring or when I try to stretch my XYZ, right? Yeah, it's always a fight, right?
Yeah.
It's always which is not what stretching is meant to be, right? And it's okay if it happens for the first 5 to 10 seconds. In fact, it's natural for that to happen. Your body has mechanisms.
Even the whole time. It's okay if you repeat. What I recommend a lot of people do is like I do it myself. I do 2 times per side, per limb, per area.
So you kind of get like you dust off the shoulders.
I do,
and then you do your.
So I'll hit my quad, and I'll do hamstring, and I'll do quad, hamstring again, or I'll do quad, and then hamstring.
Yeah. So you give yourself that one to like experience some of that hardship.
This stuff. Yeah. I mean, sometimes I'm so tight. Or I'm like from whatever training session I did or whatever, and I'm sure a lot of our members can relate, right? Like if you're, especially like this week, like during PR week, like you're sore, you're tight, and like recovery is so important. And you can do it at home by doing the foam rolling first and then going through your stretches. 45 minimum, 60 is the goal. So seconds.
Yeah. But wow. So again, you just hit another really important topic. So right before you stretch, what did you do? You improved your blood flow, right? You potentially changed your tissue temperature. So that's important for stretching, because if you try to stretch cold, imagine, we give this analogy a lot too, putting a rubber band into the freezer, taking it out and trying to stretch that rubber band when it's cold. It's very hard to do, right? In fact, you'll probably break the rubber band. Not to scare people and think that your muscles are suddenly a rubber band and you're going to just snap them. But a lot of people experience discomfort and even pain when they try to stretch cold. And if they just take those 5 minutes, maybe right before that, to warm up their body, maybe go through a little bit of foam rolling. You do, dude, honestly, I mean, I work up a sweat sometimes foam rolling.
Yeah.
If I'm going through everything, if I'm hitting it all, I'm going to start to sweat a little bit. Or maybe you go for your walk first. You do a little bit of the walk.
Question.
Yeah.
I've heard some people talk about like using heat. So in terms of stretching and in terms of like being, because we have this rubber band analogy, right? So like if like I don't really feel like foam rolling, or like I don't have a foam roller readily available somehow, maybe like the kids are using it, or I don't know, something, I can't find it. I'm unable to find it. I don't feel like looking for it, whatever reason, right? Like, should I use heat? Do you think I should use heat? Do you think,
this is a great question, because we just mentioned the term tissue temperature, right? And ideally we want our tissues to be warmer. Now, superficial heat, so what you're referring to is usually going to be what we would call like a moist heat pack, or maybe like one of those heat packs that you pop in the microwave that comes out and whatever. So you can throw it right onto the tissue and let it sit there and do its work. Now, heat's not bad. It's not bad, but I think it's less of an answer than people actually realize it to be.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is if you try and stick a heat pad on your hamstring, so let's say we're going to talk about the back of your thigh right now, the hamstring. You're a little sore. You got some muscle soreness there from the day prior or the 2 days prior. So you slap this heat pad on and you sit there for 5 to 10 minutes with this heat pad. The heat is only really penetrating, like, I can't remember the exact depth. It's a very small amount of heat that actually penetrates deep into those tissues. So when we're talking about trying to stretch tissues to improve their overall range of motion or improve their recovery, we're not going to get the same effect, because it's only going to penetrate a little bit of that muscle and the rest of the muscle is untouched. In fact, something really crazy starts to happen, where as the heat starts to cool and the tissue that it's sitting up against inevitably takes some of that heat in, but then starts to cool, you get this reverse effect, because heat likes to travel it likes to have space, right? Cold condenses, heat makes space. So you're actually going to start to pull heat out of that muscle again, which is counterintuitive, because you're trying to warm up the tissue so that you can stretch it and make it pliable. But unfortunately, what happens is you don't actually give it that effect. You might, I'm not going to say you're going to hurt yourself, because you're better off with that than you would be if you just sat there like without any heat on your leg. But the best answer for improving your tissue temperature is not a heat pack, not moist heat pack, whatever you're going to throw on it. It's movement. Movement to some extent. Or again, like we mentioned earlier, even the foam rolling, because that's helping improve the blood flow, and that's what's inevitably bringing the heat to the muscle.
You can even ride a bike.
If
you have one of those bikes at home, or you can do it 5 minutes, just enough. Throw a sweatshirt on, throw your long pants on, walk for 5 minutes, just enough to start to feel a little bit of moisture under your pits, or a little moisture in the swamp area. Like, that's fine.
Yeah,
as long as you're okay with like stopping there and not be like, oh, I need my workout now. Like, this isn't meant to be a workout. It's meant to be, remember, the topic of today's conversation is recovery. Recovery.
Now, before we move on, I do want to take a second to give heat just a little bit of love, because there are times when I'll hop in the shower, dude, and I'll melt my skin off. I mean, maybe not that hot, but I will. I'll turn it up a little bit hotter, because the act of having hot fluid or hot water hitting your body, just like with a heat pack, is actually relaxing. And I can't argue that. Yeah, it's relaxing. It's helping actually soothe my body. Maybe it's actually calming down my nervous system and helping me be a little less anxious about stretching in the cold or whatever. So in that regard, you know what? Heat can be helpful. I just don't want people to have this illusion that throwing a heat pack onto their body is somehow going to make their tissue like 100% more flexible or anything like that.
Got it.
Or that that in itself is what's improving the recovery. No. Movement is the priority. The heat pack can be there for maybe just a little bit of that, well, I hate to say it, mental support.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just more relaxing and soothing to have the heat on you.
And I think that's all sometimes we need is that little piece of mental support that allows us to then go into stretching. If that's what it takes for you to get into the mood and the zone of stretching, then do it.
Yeah.
But in terms of recovery, number 2 priority is gotta be stretching. Gotta be stretching, and it's gotta be more than just a couple of days. Like, a lot of our members will be like, oh gosh, like my shoulder's been bothering me so much, my neck is so tight. I'm like, oh, like let me show you some stretches. So I'll show you the stretches, and I can see how tight they are, how much tension's in their body. And I'll say, great, now do that 2 times for each side, 45 seconds for each side hold, and do that for the next 7 to 10 days without any days of not doing it. And I kid you not, like most people, like on the 2nd or 3rd day, I'll see them like, hey, you still stretching? Like, oh, I forgot, or I just didn't get to it. Well, okay, and like, how, you still feeling pain? Like, yeah,
Starting to come back.
Like, prioritize it and make it a routine. A routine is how we make those changes long term. Just like we talked about in every other topic that we've had on this podcast, small steps in the right direction will lead to big results. Yeah. So a small step being spend 10 minutes a day. You don't have to be the 25 minutes a day like I do. Start simple with just 10 minutes, 5 minutes even. If you're unable to prioritize 10, just 5 minutes a day, and hit the areas that you know to be the most problematic for you. If you're a lower back person, time to stretch out those hips, those glutes, and those hamstrings, right? And if you're someone who has knee pains, time to stretch out those hamstrings, those quads, and those calves. Like just little simple areas that can help make the bigger changes. If you're someone who has neck pain and tight neck and tight back, then time to do those thread the needle T-spine rotation stretches and hold those stretches for a tight period, for a long enough time.
You know, and something else that gets overlooked here is stretching, not just for the sake of recovery, but stretching for the sake of tissue adaptations. We are trying to change the length of your tissue a bit here. We do want you to have better range of motion. If you can squat, let's say your bottom of your squat depth is exactly at 90 degrees of knee bending. So in other words, we would call that hitting the height of your femur, or like being parallel to the floor with your femur. That's fine. That's great. That's very functional. We can use that a lot because most seats you're going to sit in are going to be about knee height. So you're going to end up using that. But let's say you have to go deeper. Let's say there's something that requires you picking up a baby off the floor, your newborn baby, whatever, off of a floor position or something. You're going to need to get down lower. You have to, right? You have to access that range of motion. So stretching is affecting the plasticity, the permanent change length of the muscle. The more we stretch it, the more length we have, the more range of motion we have access to. And yeah, you know what? Maybe it's not just your quads that are tight or your hamstrings that are tight and your squats restricted because of that. Maybe it's actually a combination of things. Maybe your calves are tight, your hamstrings are shot, and your lower back is tight. Like all these different components. So if we can influence the length of all those tissues and give you more access to your range of motion so that you get to the bottom of your squat, but guess what? You still got 10% more. You could still go lower, baby. That's a great thing. Because then you're not stressing your end range of motion where, by the way, if you're fatigued, it could lead to injury. We don't want that to happen. We want you to have more than enough access to your range of motion so that when you need it, if you need it, you have it there. But while you're training, maybe you don't use it all. That's okay. You'll feel way less pain. I bet that next, right? All those things with rotating and all that shoulder pain that you got, that neck pain that you got, folks, give yourself more range of motion. Do those same movements and see how you feel a month later, 2 months later.
Living proof. Yeah. Living proof of like, seriously, it was quarterly that I can say that I was getting these, like I wasn't able to move a certain area, a certain way of my neck. And it would give me this just like throbbing deep in the inside of my head, like headache. And I went to 2 different physical therapists and a chiropractor. And it was one of the 3 of them that said, try doing these stretches. And I tried the stretches that they recommended. And then I added a couple more in myself. And that was it. It was prioritizing. It was less about looking at the problems of my muscles and what's going on there and how things are moving. Like all, it was just looking at it like, where is the tension being created and how can I relieve that stress and that tension and keep it away? And it was using stretching, using no tools, using no supplements, using no medications, nothing. Just resulted in helping with my movement and increasing my movement and my range of motion and allowing me to prioritize stretching as the number 2 best form of recovery. Because number 1,
I was going to say, here we
number
are.
1,
drum roll.
Number 1, the best that you and I agree that everyone else in this facility needs to really write this down as the number 1 best form of recovery.
3, 2, 1. Sleep.
Sleep is the number 1. And it's important that we clarify, like not just taking naps and like sitting around and resting, but REM, long hours of sleep. And there are lots of studies out there that talk about the importance of sleep and getting the right amount of hours, but it's also the quality of your sleep, right? Yeah. So in terms of hours, the recommendation for a healthy adult is 7 to 9 hours as the average per night recommended amount of sleep you should be getting. But what I've found with a lot of our members and speaking to a lot of them in our nutrition coaching consultation or in our nutrition coaching meetings, which we do, like that's regular as part of our services here. Like I'm meeting with people daily, multiple people per day. But we also have accountability coaching, which is also aligning with recovery, with stretching, with all the things that we're talking about today. But in terms of like making sure that you're doing things right for your body, people come in and talk to me and meet with me. And I know that you know this, but so many people are telling me that like they get 7 to 8 or 9 hours of sleep, but they're waking up once or twice or 3 times, maybe even more than that a night for no reason other than they wake up. So what I'd like to add is in terms of helping to improve your sleep, we have some tips for improving your sleep here. But one of those things is one of the simplest ways you can improve your sleep is to decrease the amount of caffeine that you're consuming and to decrease or be more mindful of the time in which you're having that caffeine. So caffeine has a quarter life of 12 hours.
What do you mean by quarter life?
So after you drink it, your body starts processing it, and everyone's body's processes caffeine differently based on our liver. Our livers process the caffeine, like the molecule of caffeine, differently, and how we process it is how it affects our bodies differently. Some people get jitters, some people get shakes, some people are more alert, more awake. Fun fact about caffeine, though: caffeine doesn't give you energy. It actually just it reduces the amount of sleepiness that you feel. And let me break this down for you a little bit more. This is gonna blow your mind. Ready? So caffeine is this amazing drug in our society that's so widely accepted by everybody. I use it regularly, very, very low quantities of it, but I know you use caffeine regularly, and I've decreased it. I used to be about 2 to 3 cups of coffee and an average 8-ounce cup of coffee, but just in black, I would do that 2 to 3 times a day. I usually have it first thing when I wake up in the morning, probably after my workout because I like to have it with my breakfast, and then I'd have it around 2 p.m. just to give me the midday pickup, because I'm sure people who are listening, you can relate, midday sometimes, you just feel that slump and you want to have that caffeine. But the quarter life of caffeine, your body is processing it. Once you consume it, your body starts processing it, and your liver processes it differently from everyone else. So the effects are different. But a quarter life means that it takes 12 hours for your body to get rid of almost all of it. Up to a quarter of it will be left in your system, and a quarter of it that gets left is in your brain. And your brain, the way caffeine works and how it gives us energy, it doesn't give us energy. It blocks the sleepy receptors. So your brain has these receptors that are created once you wake up. So our circadian rhythm is all made up from our how we our lifestyles and how the sun rises and sets and things like that. So our circadian rhythm is pretty natural for all of us.
So when we go to sleep at night versus
So once we wake up, our brain has all these receptors in it, and then what our brain has with these receptors is our hormones are produced, and they start floating around in our brain, and these are those sleepy hormones. I think it's called adenosine. Adenosine, maybe?
These molecules, yes. I think adenosine is one of the molecules that binds.
But for the sake of keeping things simple and not mispronouncing names of hormones and whatnot, let's just call it the hormone that makes us sleepy. So that starts floating around in our brain. And what it does is this floats and then connects to that receptor. And throughout the day, the more connections that are made, the more ready our body is then to accept sleep as we're ready to fall asleep. Mm-hmm. But our brain produces these sleepy hormones, and the more hormones of these that are floating around, the sleepier and more tired we get, especially when they bind. That's when we know that it's time to go to sleep. So what caffeine is the same shape as this hormone that's produced in our brain, and caffeine fills that receptor.
But
so
it blocks it.
It blocks
right?
it.
So
right?
it doesn't actually activate it.
It does not activate it. It blocks it. So what happens is our bodies are filling these receptors and they float around, so we don't actually get that sleepy feeling of when they bind and they feel sleepy. So it blocks it so that it pushes back the sleepiness. But our body is still producing all of these hormones. Mm-hmm. So what happens is that midday slump that I was hinting at earlier is even though our brains are still producing more receptors to take care of these hormones, we're not still taking in caffeine usually. So we then eventually it catches up where our body then all at once we start to feel it, right? That usually around the midday.
As more receptors open up, and you've already had plenty of them floating around.
And they've been filled in.
And we got places to go.
We got the rush of it, and it's that rush of sleepiness. And so in terms of how caffeine can help, caffeine is a great stimulant. It's really great for alertness, for actually athletic performance. There's been studies that show that it will improve your athletic performance because it does so many other things and there are antioxidants in coffee. So many great options for caffeine specifically, and then also coffee. But in terms of sleep, in terms of improving your sleep, I can speak from experience. because ever since I read, and I'm going to plug this in, I didn't know all this stuff. I found all this stuff out from one specific book that I highly recommend to everybody by Michael Pollan.
Pollan.
Pollan?
Pollan, yeah.
Michael Pollan or Pollan. He is a super, super great author. Does a lot of like studies and researches and then presents it in a very easily digestible manner through stories. But I highly recommend it. His book is called Caffeine, and it's wonderful. I highly recommend it. So if you're checking it out, maybe if I can have a reminder to myself later on in the future when I'm watching this, like put it in the show notes for a link there. We can get that on Amazon or you can get it on Audible. I listen to the audiobook. He actually reads it. It's great. So I highly recommend it. It's a short, easy read, but it's great. It's very informative and informational and helps us understand it and what caffeine is doing. So for all of our members and adults who are saying that they do get 6, 7, 8, 9 hours, 10 hours of sleep a night, but they're waking up frequently for no reason other than they just happen to wake up from sleep and they toss and turn and they go back to sleep. That is disrupting your cycle. And when you disrupt your sleep cycle, you're disrupting your recovery path. And if you're disrupting your recovery path, you're still going to be sore. You're still going to be tight. You're still going to have all those complications that you had when you went to sleep. Yeah. And so prioritizing sleep will allow for your body to repair itself, because that is the time when your body actually does repair itself. It helps regulate your hormones, and while you sleep, it helps repair all of the damages that you made, and the good damages that you've made to your body with training, with working out. And it also helps to make sure that you're staying on track with your recovery, with all the other things we talked about. Sleep is the number one priority there. And so for people who are thinking, I need to have my caffeine, can't live without it, that's fine. Keep it in your rotation. I know that you do too. But remember, if you think of it 12 hours, just backtrack it. So if you know you want to go to bed at 9 p.m., which is a reasonable time, maybe it's 9 o'clock, maybe it's 9:30, maybe it's 10. Let's just say 9 o'clock for the simple math. That means you need to make sure that you finish your cup of coffee before 9 a.m. That way, your body has enough time to digest it, to synthesize, to get through all that caffeine, and then your brain is still not feeling all the effects as it would have if you had caffeine later in the day and tried to go to bed at the same time at 9. Mm-hmm. And for the people who have the doubts about it, and about like still loving coffee, I still love coffee. I drink coffee daily. I brew my decaf, and I brew decaf for 24 hours so it really steeps. So I'm still getting caffeine, but a much lower dose, and my sleep has dramatically improved. And I'm not waking up in the middle of the night to what I thought was to wake up just to pee, or wake up because I heard something or felt something or something, whatever it was. But my sleep has improved, which has allowed for my recovery to improve, which has allowed for my life to improve in so many different ways. So prioritizing sleep is number one for recovery.
Yeah, man.
Number one.
Number one. Has to be.
Has to be. And if you don't do anything else on this list and you just want to pick one thing, just pick sleep. Pick sleep. And if you've already prioritized sleep and you're nodding along, you're saying like, Matt, I've already talked to you. Like one of our members probably listening to us right now, like I'm already doing all these things. Like I still drink my coffee, but I have a cutoff time, or I now drink decaf and I still love my coffee and I can drink it and sleep. Then great. Then let's go pick two things: sleep and stretch.
Yeah, go for
right. Work your way down the list from one down. So play this episode backwards, and that should be the priorities of how you should keep it in of a list of importance for what you're doing on a regular basis.
Yeah, I mean, it's look, not to continue too much further, because I feel like we just nailed it. Like I think you just nailed it really well talking about, especially because caffeine is one of those big influencers on, and not a positive influencer on sleep. And it is so prevalent in today, and especially with our members here. But yes, in terms of physical recovery, yes, absolutely. Sleep is so critical, but also in terms of mental recovery, man, when you're sleeping, you are solidifying so many things that you learned throughout the day. You're processing so much stimuli that you took into your brain during the day. And some of those things, yeah, maybe they're not important. So you don't, firm press them into your memory, but some of those things are very important. And especially if we're talking about giving you that like a little bit more of an edge with your training, maybe you learned something while you were training today, or something clicked in a different way, or maybe you made space for a new kind of concept in your training, that sleep that night, maybe you're going to firm press that into your memory, so that when you come back in for day 2 or day 3 in your training regimen, you feel like, wait a minute, why do I feel like I've done this before? Why do I feel like this makes so much more sense today than it did yesterday? You've been screaming how to hinge at me for like a month now, and I'm still not doing it right, but all of a sudden it feels right. Like my joints are moving the right way. I'm processing this information differently. That's one of the wonderful benefits of sleep, is that you can process information maybe a little bit differently or a little bit more improved the next day if you're well rested. So if you're waking up and you're getting 6, 8, whatever, 9, 10 hours of sleep, but you're not feeling well rested, maybe this is your call. Maybe this is that time to take a step back and say, what are the things that are potentially influencing my sleep right now? And how can I improve that? And how can I make that more of a priority?
Love it.
Yeah, man.
So good. Oh, you know what I think is important? We don't have on the list here, but I think it's also important just to keep it in mind. Breathing is a major factor in this recovery saga of our list. Breathing is important, and that's I think it's going to be a whole other topic that we can talk about. Diaphragmatic breathing and understanding belly breaths versus like breathing for lifting versus breathing for recovery versus breathing for meditation. Like all these different levels of breathing that are important. But it all centers back around like understanding breath and understanding breathing and how that affects our body in different ways. So I think we should tuck that in there. Maybe have another conversation another time.
We should.
But it's important. It's still on this list. And I think I would probably fit that in right in there with stretching in terms of breathing, understanding your breathing, understanding where it comes from, understanding how you're doing it, and when you're doing it, what effects it's having on your body if you're doing it the right way or the not so right way in terms of like productive movement and productive recovery,
Yeah.
So breathing is one that I think we should definitely jot down as like a star, like added bonus option for recovery. But for now, I think we did a really great job there. So for everyone, I'm going to turn to the camera and look over at you guys. If you're hanging out with us, thanks so much for hanging out with us. Leave us a comment in the comments section. Tell us of those top priorities of recovery, which of the ones do you recover with the most? What are you prioritizing the most? Leave it in the comment section. I know you guys are watching this because I see it on our YouTube. People are watching these YouTube videos, but you're not leaving us comments. And while you're there, hit the subscribe button, because that's how you'll know that we've sent out more of these videos, more of these podcasts. So you're getting more value in your day, so you can really make sure that you're aligning all your goals with the right information to move forward in the right way. But if you're listening to us on a podcast, well, thanks for hanging out there too. If you're listening to us, I hope you're smiling from ear to ear because you just had a really great time listening, and hope you feel encouraged and ready to move on with your day. But do us a favor and go leave us a 5-star rating, and leave us a review on whatever podcast platform, wherever it is, Spotify, Apple Music, or Apple iTunes, or Apple Podcasts, whatever it is, Stitcher, anywhere else. Just leave us a review. It's really helpful for us, and it helps make sure that we're on the right track with giving you guys the right information. But for now, the call to action is swing by BentOnBetter, www.BentOnBetter.com. And check out all the services we got. We got a lot of stuff going on, from one-on-one training to our prenatal and postnatal program, to our athlete trainings, athletes from 10 to 17-year-olds here. We also have adult training. That's our main bread and butter, right? It's adult training, and we work with adults in the prehab sense. So if you're someone who is dealing with pain and you've been suffering with pain for a long time, you're dealing with chronic pains, stiffness, soreness, tightness, areas that you don't think is feeling right, and you've been trying out different workout areas and doing different workouts on your own or at different gyms and just haven't seen the results you want to have, it's time to change it up. It's time to do something different. It's time to take the step in a better direction. So check us out here at BentOnBetter. We got you covered. Good? Ready? All right. Talk to you guys soon. Bye.
Yeah.